Number 134 in your hymnal, Our World is One World.
Our opening words are a poem called A Prayer for Travelers by Angela Herrera. This is a prayer for all the travelers, for the ones who start out in beauty, who fall from grace, who stepped gingerly looking for the way back, and for those who are born into the margins, who travel from one liminal space to another, crossing boundaries in search of center. This is a prayer for the ones whose births are a passing from darkness to darkness, who all their lives are drawn toward the light and keep moving, and for those whose journeys are a winding road that begins and ends in the same place. Though only when the journey is completed do they finally know where they are. For all the travelers, young and old, aching and joyful, weary and full of life, the ones who are here and the ones who are not here, the ones who are like you, and they're all like you, and the ones who are different, for in some ways we each travel alone. This is a prayer for traveling mercies and sure-footedness, for clear vision, for bread, for your body and spirit, for water, for your safe arrival, and for everyone you see along the way.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Universalist Unitarian Church of Farmington. My name is Beverly Church. I'm a member of the Religious Education Committee, and our director, or our coordinator of religious education, Natalie Case, and the committee have been busy this summer getting the classrooms ready and starting up a new curriculum so that the kids will have a great experience. The only thing that we'll need a few extra of are volunteers. So if you could spend a few hours with the kids, and this year we're not asking for a long commitment, we're asking for just 4 Sundays for the year. It would be great if you could help out. Please see Natalie, or one of us may see you. Our minister, Reverend Leonetta Bulese, is out of the pulpit today. Today's guest speaker is Marie Lowry, and I'll tell you more about her in a little bit. I'd like to extend a special welcome to any visitors today. Please join us for coffee, bagels, and conversation after the service downstairs. A member of the membership committee will be at the visitors table if you have any questions. At this time, I'd like to invite any first-time visitors to stand, if you're comfortable, and let us know where you're from and how you heard about us. We'd like to meet you. Great. Thank you. We're glad to have you with us. During the service, we have supervised nursery for babies and toddlers and religious education classes for children and youth. Please see Natalie Case, our coordinator of religious education, for more information about those programs. And if you need to leave the service for any reason, there are 2 other locations in the building where the service is broadcast. An usher can direct you. And let's remember that we're a welcoming congregation. We welcome all humans, regardless of race, sexual orientation, belief system, and age, even the small children that are fidgety and sometimes make noises. These little humans are our future, and we welcome them while they're in the meeting house. I have one announcement. Have you been considering attending services? Have you been attending services for a while and are considering becoming a member here at UUCF? The membership committee will host new UU discussion on Sunday, October 7th from noon to 2 p.m. More details will be in the order of service, and there's a sign-up sheet at the visitors table in Adams Hall. Do we have any other announcements?
Hello, my name is Gloria Tweedy. I'm co-chair of Social Justice, and I want to welcome you all back because you are in luck today. Because we have 2 opportunities for you to volunteer to make our community around us better and to also increase the community of UUCFers. The first is at Gleaners. We've done it before. I want to remind you it is a food bank. Last year they gave out 34 million pounds of food. We were there in March. We helped do that. We're doing it on Saturday, September 29th from 9 to 11:30 a.m. The difference from March to now is it's an online sign-up. There are instructions here. Please see me downstairs to do that. Life Remodel is new to us. It started in Joni Tedesco is the kind of headliner here, but she's out visiting in Houston, Texas, her grandson and daughters. Oh, I'm sorry, she's pointing to the, I can talk, but I can talk loud. Anyway, it is an organization, a nonprofit organization that started in 2011 to build specific communities in different parts of Detroit. We have never participated in. It is awesome. This year, their focus is around Durfee Middle School and Central. Durfee is no longer a middle school, whatever. Their focus this year is to plant 1,000 trees and perennials, build a community garden, install free libraries, upgrade parks, and designate safe walking streets to the school, and add signs around the neighborhood. This is generally a 1-year commitment per neighborhood. They are taking this on for 4 years. It's awesome. Not only are they doing things like that, they're building or providing different kinds of opportunities to learn about the community and grow community. We need that. This is a sign-up sheet. When Joni gets back, she'll give you more info. That's for Life Remodeled. That is on, October, thank you, oh, what a memory. October 6th. And there are 3 shifts, and you can sign up from 9 to 1, from 1 to, let me read this maybe, 1 to 5, or all day. Please, please come out and help our community. Thank you. My help with that.
Thank you. Are there any other announcements? Please check your order of service for other announcements about upcoming events, and of course, please take a minute to silence your phone. Our next hymn is number 305, de Colores, and we are going to sing the first 3 verses. Please join with me in our litany of gathering, which is on page 2 of your order of service. This is our sacred time and space. Gather in community to renew our spirits, to explore the mystery, and to share our joys and sorrows. With you, I find strength. With me, you can share your deepest self. Together, we understand and to forgive. We share triumphs. We share failures. We share joy. We share sorrow. Next, we'll have the message for all ages.
Knew how to write her name. She wrote it on all her things and she painted it even bigger than her picture. Mrs. Smith and Miss Dinjal clapped, and Manjeet held the painting up for everyone to see. Ling Sung tried to write his name too, but he wasn't sure how to do the letters or which way the writing had to go. The one thing Ling Sung could do came at home time. Very carefully, he buttoned up his coat, but when he finished, he had a button left over and his coat was all up on one side. Sharon did hers perfectly, and Miss Smith said wasn't she clever. She didn't say anything about Ling Sung, but just did up his coat properly while she talked to Sharon's dad. Ling Sung didn't want to go to school ever again. He wanted to spend the whole day doing things he liked, watching red-nosed clowns in the park, and doing somersaults for the cat, and splashing his mom in the pool, and bathing his little sister. But the next day, there he was at school again. At snack time, Anis showed everyone how he could tie his apron at the back all by himself. Ling Sung couldn't even do up the apron with the Velcro tabs. The others said it kept making a rude noise. He turned his back on them. He was fed up with clapping for other people for the things they could do. Why couldn't he be good at something too? He saw 2 long paintbrushes. Someone hadn't put them in their jar. Ling Sung fiddled with them and didn't pay attention when the cookies came around, and he nearly dropped his plate and his cookie broke into pieces. Terry pointed at him and laughed. "You look like a clown juggling that plate," he said. "Red noses," said Ling Sung, and he made a clown face. He put both the brushes into one hand and he chopsticked the cookie pieces into his mouth, the way he ate at home. Miss Smith suddenly clapped. "Look, everyone, look what Ling Sung can do. Isn't that clever?" She was pleased. "Do it again, Ling Sung," she said. "Could anyone else use chopsticks?" No one could. "Oh, where's the camera?" said Miss Danjal. Ling Sung knew just how to hold the chopsticks and how to hold his plate close to his mouth. When he was small, it had been hard to do, but now he didn't even think about it. Everyone wanted to be shown how to do it. It wasn't easy. "Show us again, Ling Sung," they shouted. Ling Sung helped the teachers, too. They were dropping cookies all over the place. They laughed and tried again. "I can nearly do it," said Miss Smith. And then Ling Sung got them to show him how to do their best things. Manjeet helped him with his writing. Terry showed Ling Sung how to tie his laces. And Sharon told him how to do up his coat. You don't start in the middle. Anis did up Ling Sung's apron for him, so tight he could hardly breathe. Ling Sung couldn't wait to tell his dad when he met him after school. He could do something that made the others clap. A real clever sticks, his dad said. I have one more thing to show you guys before you kick off for RE. Look up here. Do you remember who knows our friends at Freedom House? You guys remember your friends at Freedom House? Remember this little area that was by there when you were at the party there in June? And it was kind of yucky and they couldn't play with it. We couldn't play in there. It wasn't safe. It was ugly. Well, a couple weeks ago, some of us got to go down there, and look what it looks like now. And that's my other point today. That's what happens when we work together. Right. Sing off to RE. All right. Yeah.
I do have one correction to the order of service. It says here to place a stone in our fountain pool. This is what we were doing when we were at our alternate location when the parking lot was being done. So now that we're back in the meeting house, please come forward to share any joys or sorrows of a personal nature you may have, and you may light a candle if you wish here at the table. I have, my name is Beverly. I have a joy and a
Our reading today is a poem by James R. Dennis, who is a poet and a novelist and a Dominican friar. He lives in San Antonio. They should have known. They came here from Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. Perhaps they rode La Bestia or wandered across the desert looking for hope. They should have known we aren't that kind of people anymore. They should have known we don't believe in that these days, that antiquated bit about the tired, the poor, the huddled masses. We aren't like that anymore. We don't have room for those dirty castaways. They should have known we haven't been that kind of people in years. They should have studied their history and learned how we marched the Choctaw, Creek, Seminole, and Cherokee on the Trail of Tears. They should have known of our national commitment to law and order. This is our land, our stuff, and we're not fooling around. They should have thought about that before they crossed the border. They should have known that we've become more cruel in stages. They shouldn't have brought those children here. They should have known that we weren't afraid to rip the infants from their arms and put them in cages. They should have known that we had this in our national repertoire. It's not an accident. This isn't just something we do every now and then. This is who we are. a country not based like most countries on a unifying ethnicity or religion, but on the belief that all men, are created equal. We talk of the melting pot, and we point with pride at the Statue of Liberty with the words of Emma Lazarus, "You're poor, you're tired, you're poor, you're huddled masses yearning to breathe free." Our greatest weakness is that we believe our own press. We can be rightfully proud of our ideals, but we must also face the reality that these are goals we've never reached, not at any point in our history, and certainly not today. Now, I know you're all thinking, I really just wanted to see the parking lot. I don't know how I got sucked into the depressing sermon. But I firmly believe, and I want to make the case, that the opposite of what I just said is also true. We are a country built on systemic racism and violence. We suffer the effects of that history today. And our greatest strength is that we still and consistently aspire to the ideals we believe in. We believe in equality. We believe in human rights. As UUs and as Americans, we believe in the inherent dignity and worth of every human being, not just human beings born in privileged places, but yes, also those of us who were. And even when we stumble, sometimes landing on our faces, we keep striving to reach them. This isn't a good guy, bad guy story. It turns out it's also not a 15-minute topic. So I've been writing and pruning and pruning and pruning up to a few minutes ago. So if I say something that shocks you this morning, be assured that I'm probably as surprised as you are. For today, what we have to live with is a 10,000 foot overview of where we have come from, why we are where we are, and to give us sort of a baseline to talk about these issues. First thing we need to do is look at where we've come from. And you're welcome. I'm starting in 1907. It is a brief history. In 1907, and these are just some things that bring up themes of where we are, how we got to where we are, was the Expatriation Act. Does anybody know what that was? This is crazy. So in 1907, they passed a law that said if you are a US-born woman and you marry a non-citizen, you lose your citizenship. You have no citizenship, because you don't automatically become what they are, right? So it didn't apply to men, go figure. But if you were a US-born woman, you would lose your citizenship by marrying someone who is not a citizen. That stayed in effect until the women earned the right to finally received the right to vote. Most of that was rescinded, and women retroactively got their citizenship back, except for women married to people who were not eligible to become citizens. And those people had been defined in 1917 as anyone from the Middle East, Central Asia, South Asia, which was then British India, and Southeast Asia. So if you were married to anyone who was Asian or from the Middle East, they were not eligible to become citizens. You were still not a citizen. The definition of someone willing or able to become a citizen was free white persons. These people were not defined as white. And a couple of court cases were brought, one in 1922 and one in 1923. A Japanese gentleman said, look, I'm white, I'm not black. He said, I'm not African or black. A Negro, I must be white. And the court ruled that he wasn't. You don't get in, you're not eligible. In 1923, an Indian man, Bhagat Singh Thind, this is all the way up to the Supreme Court, contended that he was white by contemporary racial anthropology. At that time, Indians were considered white. They were Caucasian. But the court said, well, in common understanding, you're not, so no, you're still not eligible. And then they added, a law was created to retroactively strip all naturalized Indian Americans of their citizenship because they'd gotten it illegally. They were citizens and it was removed from them because of their race. This went on until 1965. In 1965, the Hart-Celler Act became a radical break. They removed the restrictions from Asia and Africa and gave preference, but still gave preference to Northern and Western Europeans over Southern and Eastern Europeans still. The Refugee Act of 1980 established policies of refugees, redefining refugee according to the United Nations norms. So our refugee norms are the same as everybody else in the world. We agree on those norms. Everybody doesn't agree on how to fill them. The target for refugees was set at 50,000 per year, and the worldwide ceiling for immigrants was reduced to 270,000 people annually. So 270,000 people annually could come into the United States, according to this, in 1965 as immigrants, 50,000 of them as refugees. One of the clauses of this is that those numbers are revisited every year by the president with Congress, and we're going to come back to that. Yeah. Foreshadowing. In 1986, the Immigration Reform and Control Act was passed, which created, this is Reagan, created penalties for employers who knowingly hired undocumented immigrants. It also contained an amnesty for about, people probably remember this, for about 3 million undocumented immigrants, and mandated the intensification of some of the activities of the then INS, now Homeland Security. So they gave amnesty to a few people, but made it harder on everyone else. This one I did not know. I found this in researching. It's not about race, but the year that the United States said that homosexuals were eligible to become citizens, to be immigrants here, not even to become citizens, to immigrate to the United States was 1990. I can't explain that. So that's recent history. When you come to today, the big question, and I hear this again and again, is why don't people just get in line and follow the rules, right? Oh, I skipped a slide. The shorter answer is that there's no line for the vast majority of people. Until 1965, we had essentially open borders to other nations in the Western Hemisphere, and it was not all that difficult to come from Europe. So there was, Asians and Africans were out, but Europeans and people from the Americas could come in pretty easily. There was a fairly free flow of migrant labor back and forth across the southern border to meet the demands of agricultural and service industries. After 1965, the concept of undocumented immigrants was drawn much more sharply, and many more of them were created because Western Hemisphere visas, especially from Mexico, were suddenly, went from being unlimited to being a very rare resource. So we opened to one group and we closed to another. After 1965, the system changed over from a generalized take a number and wait in line system to one which heavily favored immediate family ties and some, but not most, all employment. And the 1997 Immigration Act was a bundle of provisions with a single goal, and that was to increase penalties on immigrants who had violated US law in some way, whether they were unauthorized immigrants who violated immigration law, or whether they were legal immigrants who had committed other crimes. And as an adoptive parent, I remember this happening a lot in the late 90s, early 2000s. People who had adopted kids, foreign kids internationally, and never gotten around to getting their passports. When the kids turned 18 and committed some petty crime, they were deported. So 18-year-olds who had never spoken Korean in their life, for example, were suddenly sent to Korea. They were deported. Sorry, lost my place. So this made people more eligible for deportation. It made it easier to deport people, and it made it harder for unauthorized immigrants to become documented in 1997, this act. This law laid the framework for the deportation going on today. There's a lot of responsibility to be claimed for this. This is not a blip. So going backwards, because I messed that up, why have people immigrated historically? Why did our ancestors come here, all of us? And these are things that our country was founded on: political freedom, religious tolerance, economic opportunities, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, right? Political refuge. There's also, of course, forced immigration. We brought in slaves, and family reunification. People are people, they love people. The reasons people immigrate today, this was easy, I cut and pasted the slide. Political freedom, religious tolerance, economic opportunities, the same things that we built our country on are the things that people want to come to America today for. Forced immigration, we call that trafficking now. It's the same thing. When I was originally asked to do this sermon, the question that came up was definitions, because they are confusing sometimes. So I'm going to go through some definitions. There are two kinds of citizens. There are those who are native born, and if you were born here, you're a native born citizen, you can become president. Naturalized citizens are people who came here and became citizens later. Alien, or non-citizen is a better word, really, is anyone who is not a citizen. Political refuge. Political refuge Refugees are defined as a person who, owing to a well-founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group, or political opinion, is outside the country of his nationality and is unable to, or owing to such fear, is unwilling to avail himself of the protection of that country. So this is someone who can't go home because they're feared death. This is a refugee. Right now, the U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigrants gives a world total of 62 million refugees, and of those, 34 million are displaced by war, including internally displaced persons, people who are still in their country but are considered refugees. Asylum seekers, the difference between an asylum seeker and a refugee is an asylum seeker is already in the country they're asking for refuge in. So if you are a refugee and you are in a camp in Lebanon, for example, you may have been born in that camp and you may die in that camp. In fact, that's very likely because the line is that impossible to get through. If you somehow get through that line, you are vetted. It takes years, literally years and years, for them to vet you and research you and look at all your relatives. And then, you know, to quote Oliver Guthrie, they leave no part untouched. If you're an asylum seeker, you go to a country outside of your own country and you ask for refuge. So you're not a refugee yet. You're not recognized as a refugee yet. You're recognized as someone who's asking to become one. Our friends at Freedom House are asylum seekers. They have come here and they've asked, they've said, look, if I go back home, I will die. Please give me shelter here. They go through a separate process to become refugees here. That's the difference between the two. It's the same cause for moving, it's just a different process for getting here. So I'm going to be surprised which slide comes up now. So where are we today? We all know about the babies in cages. You've heard about the citizens who are being stripped of their passports now in Texas. We're stripping citizens of passports because they're actually asking people. One of the lawyers in one of the articles I read said, I had to tell people they're not kidding when they ask you to remember when you were born. You know, they're asking for like rent receipts when you were born 40 years ago to prove that you were really born here, even though you already have a passport. They're removing passports from citizens. The Bank of America, does anybody know what Bank of America is doing? This is not a legal thing, but they have started shutting down accounts. They've started sending people with Hispanic names or Middle Eastern names, forms, fill it out and prove that you are a citizen. They aren't sending them to anybody who looks like me. Prove that you're a citizen or we're going to shut your account. So people aren't able to pay their rent and their accounts are blocked because they haven't jumped through this hoop that Bank of America, for some reason, has decided they're going to implement. As far as I'm concerned, that's a corporate hate crime. I don't know how else to describe it. Hate crimes themselves, physical hate crimes, are on the rise all across the country against immigrants and people who are suspected of being immigrants. Again, not people who look like me. And the refugee limit. So every year, the president picks a number of how many refugees can come into the country. It was set at 50,000 in 1965. It's gone up and down since then. Last year, hang on to your seats, it was the lowest number ever, 40,000. However, as of this past week, 18,000 people have been let in, and we're on track to have 20,000 of those people actually allowed in. So the law says that 40,000 refugees can come into the United States this year, and they're not even doing that. And of course, the number is going to be decided again this month, and it'll probably be lower. So we're not even allowing the immigration we say we will allow. Who benefits from this system? The system isn't broken. The system works exactly the way it's designed to do, keeping people out for political and economic gain. If we want to address the issue of mass immigration to the U.S., we have to understand the root causes of it: poverty, conflict, oppression. A large part of that is at this point, is the globalization. Contrary to its claim, wealth doesn't trickle down. Rather, the rules of globalization lock the wealth at the top. Governments and communities aren't able to make rules to protect their own people because they don't meet corporate interests. Free trade requires that all countries adopt the same economic model, eliminating variations that might slow down smooth global operations of major corporations. The system is not broken. It's protecting the people it's designed to protect. It's been more to protect. What do we have to gain from immigration? So what is in it for you and me, right? We know that the system is protecting corporations. What's in it for you and me? Okay, a lot of what I pruned here was the myths and facts, the things that you hear. You know, immigrants are using all our health care. Nope, they're not. They don't have access to it. Immigrants don't pay taxes. Yes, actually, if you don't have a Social Security number, you're using a fake Social Security number, you're paying taxes that you will never be able to benefit from, including and Social Security. People pay in millions of dollars into our economy that they are not eligible to get back out. All immigrants pay sales taxes and property taxes and so on. Innovation and entrepreneurship, statistically, immigrants are entrepreneurs. I lost the number in one of my prunings, but a huge percentage of our top 500 companies were formed by immigrants or the children of immigrants. Lazy people don't move that far. They don't. Immigrants make significant contributions into social services, again, social security, and so on. And then there's that soft power aspect. As a country, not even for us, as a country, the United States, a lot of its power is built on soft power. It's our ability to influence the world through our values and cultural appeal, through our television shows, our advertising, and immigrants who come here and send back positive reports. So they're PR. They're helping us maintain power in the world, that soft power. We're known to be we've been known to be culturally open and accepting. You can't underestimate this. The presence of multiple thriving cultures in our country helps expand our interests around the world and counterbalances some of the more negative PR we have, that hard power, our military power. It helps us achieve our foreign policy goals with greater ease and efficiency. We don't need to let everyone in. We don't need to keep everyone out. But unless one of you is holding out on us, no one seems to have the power to magically fix everything that needs to be fixed in this world. I have, in my notes, insert shameless plug that Save the World. We'll start meeting again soon. We haven't finished the task, but we're having fun and working on it. Please join us. For those of you who haven't been to Save the World, we meet every other Sunday night. We discuss issues and how we can play our small part in fixing them. But the real benefit of groups like Save the World, not just our group, but all these groups, and again, this is a shameless plug, is to ourselves. Working together, we build community here, just as building the playground at Freedom House, we built community there. When I go to Freedom House, and I'm digressing from my script, one of the things I love about it is it doesn't matter who you are. When you walk in, people greet you. How are you, Mom? How are you, Mom? I'm everybody's mother now. How's your family? How's it going? And since the 11th of August, every time I walk into Freedom House, somebody stops me. Some of the times it's not even someone I know and says, how's your church? How's everyone at your church? Can I come visit your church? That is community. That day, if you were able to be there that day, you know what I'm talking about. There was that sense of working together, of meeting really good people and working with them. And that's what we need to do on a nationwide and a global level. It's good for all of us. So that's the least tangible, but I think the most important benefit of immigration. It's building a society based on justice, equal opportunity, and love of our fellow human beings. It's that beloved community that Martin Luther King talked about. We need to develop a rational, fair system that recognizes the dignity and worth of all of us, not just the corporate few. We need to say this isn't right. It isn't right for other people, and it isn't right for us. Who gets a place at the table? we always talk about ourselves as a melting pot. We're not a melting pot. We are not uniform. And I don't think we'd want to be. I mean, who wants to be like stew, right? Who wants to be a glop? We're a potluck. I really think that we as a country are a potluck, and I love hot dogs and apple pie. We all do. But we also love falafel and pho and tacos and chili. And that's the beauty of a potluck. You get something, you get there and you brought the thing that you're really good at, like Ling Su, and somebody else brought something else that you go, I never tried that before. That's really interesting. If you were at the playground build a couple weeks ago, you got to try Burundian food. Who was there and tried the food from Baobab Fair? It's awesome, isn't it? Back me up here. It's really good. I can't believe I lived until last year not knowing about this kind of food. It's really good. And I didn't know what I was missing. And I think that's what we do as a culture. We don't know what we're missing. We become so focused on what we have and where we are that we miss those other dishes at the potluck, or the dishes that could be brought to the potluck if we let them, if we invited those people to come. The world is large and full of wonders, and I don't know why we limit it. I think fear. I just answered myself. I know why we limit it, and I think it's crazy that we do that. We need to make our world larger for ourselves as well as for the people who want to join us. I'm going to leave you with a couple questions. What potential are we wasting? What are we missing? What other kind of food, what other kinds of things do we not even know about? And how do we, as a country, get closer to the people we want to be? And I have a final quote from, it says, "What a world this will be when human possibilities are freed, when we discover each other, when the stranger is no longer a potential criminal and the certain inferior." That's where we need to be. We need to be respecting the dignity and beauty of all people. If you will join me in hymn 131, Love Will Guide Us. Closing words are from Reverend Catherine Yesh. Spirit of life, open our hearts to the call of the earth and all her children. Give us the courage to follow our hearts, to always reach toward that which brings us joy. And knowing how deeply our lives intertwine, lead us to join with others with whom we can find strength and common purpose. Allow us to turn our minds and hearts toward one another in trust, giving love, seeking comfort, and celebrating together all the days of our lives. so much